Welcome to No Clip. I'm Chad Rowan.
I'm JJ Artemis.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today we're going to be talking about Hyper Light Drifter. Hyper Light Drifter is a game that was developed by Hard Machine and was released in 2016 on, are you prepared?
Everything.
Windows, OS X, Linux, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation Vita, and the Ouya.
What?
I'm not joking.
It's on the Vita?
Even more surprising.
I actually feel like this game would look really great on the Vita.
It would.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Well, what could you do with the little, touch feelers in the back?
You don't have to
Goddamn
do anything.
nothing.
Wait, well,
Ever.
they're there.
So?
It's like Wii logic.
That
You
doesn't
gotta
mean-
waggle something.
No.
You waggle your Vita around?
That's the problem with third-party Wii games.
No, it's a comparison.
Is they all stupidly try to incorporate motion controls where they don't belong.
You have to waggle your motion stick, and you have to, feel up your touch stick or whatever.
Yeah, you
I
do.
guess
Yeah,
it's-
feel up your touch stick. That's good.
I guess it's a rectangle.
Something wrong with
But yeah,
it.
it's on many platforms.
It's all, yeah. Everybody wave your Vitas in the air.
The
Like
Ouya
you
is
just
done
don't
also,
care.
right? Just as a confirmation about life.
What is it?
The Ouya, it's like a dead thing.
Yeah,
I don't think it ever... I think it was just miscarried. I don't think it ever saw the light of day.
It completely
existed.
baffles me that it's even listed in the, platforms released on.
You think Wikipedia would have just made the judgment call that it's not a platform?
That they're just like, Ouya? I don't think that counts. Maybe it's developed for the Ouya?
Are these it didn't simultaneously launch on all
No,
these.
it actually just came out on PS4.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it actually has a Wii U release that is coming later.
Oh yeah, I
That's
forgot
on
about
it, yeah,
that.
It doesn't have a release date yet.
The map would be cool with that.
Oh yeah, I have the map, yeah. Because the map... Ooh. Okay, alright, let's talk about this game that we played.
Good.
We're played.
That were played around.
Yeah. Let's talk about this game that we're played. There's game and then there are hills. So, this game...
Game! Prospectors with Vitas and throwing them away.
Yeah, they're sifting through dirt and they find an Ouya and just put it away. And they're like, oh, a Vita. I'd sell this for $20.
There are rivers in the Appalachia whose beds are entirely composed of Vitas. Just
The Vita Quarry.
Yeah. This game that we played, how would you... I don't know. How do you describe this game, generally?
It's like a Super Nintendo, top-down action-adventure, like A Link to the Past, but it's more combat-focused and less puzzle-focused.
Yeah.
It really doesn't have any puzzles. It
kind of has... But it has puzzles in the way that,
environmental
a
traversal.
platformer has
Yeah.
puzzles.
Yeah.
And also, so... Obviously, probably the most distinguishing thing about this game, probably the reason anyone looked at this game at all,
Because it was really pleasing to look at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Its art design is just
Incredible.
Yeah, it is intense pixel art, psychedelia.
It is the only game in my whole life that I have ever committed to purchase solely off of a trailer and nothing else.
Yeah.
I didn't even know, based on the first trailer, what this game was going to be. At that point, it essentially just showed, top-down 2D pixel art guy running around. And I was like, that's enough. It's very pretty.
Yeah,
Yep.
It is very, very pretty.
I feel like this game has the best pixel art that I've ever seen.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously not, objectively the best pixel art.
No,
Because we're not going to
still-
define best on this podcast right
Well,
now.
I mean, the issue more is in the fact that this game, just does not look as detailed as other games that have pixel art.
Right.
It's just, its aesthetic is so well defined.
And it's animation within the 2D structure.
Is also really good.
I solidified my belief of best pixel art ever, a minute into starting the game. There's...
the cutscene.
Yeah, you remember the scene in that cutscene where the tower comes out of the ground and he's talking to the dog?
Yeah, the whole game, I was just that is what I want
yeah.
to continue seeing.
It's a subdivision of that scene.
Right.
Within that scene, when it comes out of the ground, there's pixel water or blood or some kind of liquid that splashes out and falls.
Right.
Literally just that liquid stuff coming out and hitting the ground like water was enough for me to be this deserves awards.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes. I actually said some kind of expletive, I think.
Best Pixel Water 2016 goes to Hyper Light Drifter.
So yeah, I am inclined to agree with you that I think that this game looks incredible.
The jewel tone color palette is just fantastic.
I'm also going to go ahead and just spoiler alert. When I took notes on this game, because of the way that this game made me feel as a human being, I was on so much acid. No, I separated all of my thoughts into good, bad, and question mark. I don't know if this is good or bad.
Okay.
And I actually put the art style under I don't know how I feel. Because I love how this game looks, and I will never disagree with that, but I felt that it actually did hinder the gameplay on occasion.
On occasion.
Yeah, it was never a huge deal. Yeah. But it emphasized the things that I liked least about this game, which I'll get into as we start our whole thing. Mm-hmm. But on the topic of how good the game looks, and that opening cutscene in particular, this game comes out of the gate like a baller. You just boot the game up, and the first thing you see is just this fucking crazy
it's a live feed from the NBA Jam, and they have the giant inflatable weird tube that they always walk out of, and they come through the smoke.
But it's just
LeBron
this
James.
incredible cutscene.
It's LeJohn. It's LeJohn.
It's LeJohn Brames. Either way, but yeah, so you end up you start with this cutscene that is supposed to establish something. I don't really know because
a tone.
Yeah, obviously the plot and the lore of this game are not particularly clear.
Nope,
they're not clear at all.
It's maybe the least clear plot, the most open-ended narrative I've ever experienced in a game. I think that could be accurately said to have a specific narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess that's fair. I mean, but it does make I guess it makes things that happen in the game make a little bit more sense in context. But my original thoughts on this cutscene, the reason I brought it up at all, was just to talk about how cool it fucking looks. So...
Mission accomplished.
Right. But, looking at... Because obviously, it starts... I haven't watched the opening cutscene since I started the game. It just, stuck with me.
3 times.
It's a lot of times.
So many times.
But you get introduced to your character, and, obviously he's in a bad way. And he, stands up, and then just shit goes crazy. And so, it explains, you see that in the game when your character, just keels over and starts, coughing up blood like an idiot all over the place.
Like an idiot.
This dumbass is vomiting blood constantly.
And then the coolest thing in the game, which are there's the Titans, the 4 huge humanoid dudes.
Yeah.
And, who occasionally hug mountains and occasionally are just
Dead.
body parts all over the place. Yeah, there's a drowned one. Oh, man. Yeah, this game starts off incredibly strong.
And it's not just... they show more than just the weakness that your character shows over the course of the game, too. Because you do have one, establishing badass scene where you try and cut up the shadow thing and fail.
Right.
You don't fail because you're not cool. Because you're very cool. Because you move fast and you have a sword.
Because you have a hyper light drifter.
Yeah, you do all the, hyper sword things, but he lives anyway. So, you are also cool.
Right. It's... On that note...
Yeah.
Not the note of being cool, but on the note of...
you have blue skin?
Not really. Though, I mean, that would make sense, because you're so cool. But this game is called Hyper Light Drifter.
Yeah.
And you are clearly a drifter.
Yeah. Right.
What is Hyper Light? Did we know?
The color tone?
Yeah, I was thinking it was, the color palette of the game.
Okay. Because, the way that I came into this game... Because, people talk about Mass Effect, and they're it's a really evocative name, but, once you play the game, it explains what that is. What the Mass Effect actually is. Mm-hmm. But Hyper Light Drifter just seems like an evocative name for the sake of it being look at this, crazy nonsense.
I disagree. I think it just is supposed to describe the aesthetic of the game.
But I think that the iconography and like the typeface does that better than the name itself, because the name just sounds like nonsense. I do agree that it's evocative. I was not arguing against it.
I think it's supposed to be like a meta name, like Drive Hard or something. Like it's
just like that.
It's like Drifter : Tokyo Drift.
Yeah. It's like it's not describing specific things that are happening in the game. It's sort of just describing like really generally what's happening in front of you. Like you're moving super fast, everything's very intense and like color and action.
So like,
and you're literally drifting. Like you're just like skidding across the screen with like a little light.
Isn't that what they actually call that?
Drifting?
Yeah,
that's what I called it.
I called it the dodge roll.
Is there a they other than like the general community? Does anyone else have names for these things?
I'm not. In the achievements, they name things occasionally.
Yeah, and I think the Steam trading cards have names.
But they're all tarot cards.
Yeah.
The Steam trading cards are. The achievements are not. But like, there's some like, I don't know. I only got 2 achievements because apparently some of them are bugged, which is kind of unfortunate. But I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them was like, hit 5 enemies with and it's called like a light grenade or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like your special move has a name in the game. And so there are just like some things that have names, but it's clearly not important, so they didn't emphasize it.
Yeah, I know what some, at least fans are calling things, but I have no idea if those things have any sort of basis in the lore of the game. Like the shadow creature is called Judgment by everyone.
Right.
That's actually his actual name.
Cool. People refer to the dog as Anubis. I don't know if that's also just a convenience thing.
I think that is also its actual name.
I didn't look any of this. Actually, when I play a game nowadays, I feel like I am likely to look something up at some point. This game I never did, which is kind of weird. It led me along well enough that I never felt the need to, but I think it was actually aided by the fact that I didn't know what anything was, because they didn't have names, so I couldn't just Google, like, weird house symbol, Hyperlight Drifter, what mean?
Oh yeah, I in fact experienced this specifically because I encountered like one specific, I guess you'd call it a skill challenge that was just so hard that I thought I was missing something stupid and obvious, and I had to complete the game a few days before the cast, so I had limited time and didn't want to waste time just dying 20 other times on this spike trap again. So, but I couldn't Google well enough to find the answer, so I just had to brute force it anyway.
And just like learn. Was it the one on the bridge?
It's the one where you get a. Well, the first time it was when you get a key at the end of it. You are on this sort of long bridge in the western side, but there's a secret that lets you go down and around the circumference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was that.
All right. I just wanted, because that's the only spike thing that I remember being like difficult.
Yeah. I encountered
tough,
a much harder one, but never ended up Googling that one because I was already sort of jaded about my other attempt later.
I found one thing that I could not pass for the life of me, and that was, I assume, either for an optional diamond or for one of those like 2001: A Space Odyssey monoliths,
right?
Which was like in the south, which is this huge one of those vanishing plates. But it was just like so inexplicably large that I couldn't get across it.
I don't think I ever found like a vanishing plate that large.
Yeah, you have to actually beat the boss of the south before you can go do it.
Oh, crazy!
Like, yeah, it's strange. But the fact that nothing had like proper names allowed me to do what is like my favorite thing in the world, which is give everything my own name.
See, I really dislike that in a game because I think it makes it way more forgettable.
I suppose.
Because like I found myself like I played this game a couple months ago when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. And then we were revisiting it for the podcast. I'm like, do I need to replay it? And then I started to try to think of it and like could not remember so much stuff.
Like you didn't have like a name to put to something.
So like I gave stuff my own names and then forgot them all. So I have like no anchor point. So like I feel like this game really could have benefited from like giving things some stuff names.
Yeah, I think that the intent was just to not have any text in the game.
Yeah.
And I think the only concession they made was with controls in like tutorial messages.
Yep.
And then I found like an alternate costume, which I didn't even know was a thing that was in this game in the South, which I assume is one that you have to find because the dude's just right there. And it like was like, go back to base, and it was so like weird to see text on the screen after having played the game for like 6 hours and having not seen any text since the first hour. But yeah, I don't know. I like giving stuff names for myself because I feel like it helps me remember it more. Because like I never remember Zelda boss names, but
I do.
always remember like weird descriptors that I give them. It's just easier for me.
I guess it also, in the case of this game, it was harder for their bosses, like Zelda bosses, to have some kind of really easy, clear, unifying feature. Like, just off the top of my head, even though I don't know the name of the creature, there was a boss, I think in, not Twilight Princess, but the one that came after it.
Skyward Sword?
Yeah, that was like a giant, like, lava rock boulder, and you had to, like, hack away pieces of its rock skin.
I remember it.
Yeah, like just the description of like lava boulder monster is like enough. You probably just assume the rest of the features of the creature.
Right.
But you can't really do that for any of the bosses in Hyper Light Drifter. Like there's a
Raccoon
frog
King.
guy.
I did. I'm gonna. This is a minor spoiler for a discussion that I want to have later in the podcast. But I attempted to order the bosses by difficulty because I noticed that my first boss experience completely separated like what I thought the game was going to be from what the game actually was, because I went west first, and
West first.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was so fucking... And I wasn't like... I was... My assumption at that point... It's basically like people who played Dark Souls and went to the catacombs.
Yeah, Skeleton Zone.
And thought that like, oh, well, I've heard this game is hard, so I should just try and go through it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I got to who I've dubbed the hardest boss in the game, King Santa. And just ran against it. And I think... because of like how quick the iteration time is in the game, more times than any boss in any game I've ever played, I think I had to have gone up against this dude at least 30 times before I eventually killed him. It was like, because I had 0 upgrades. I had not upgraded anything. And just walked in and was like, alright, King Santa, let's throw down. And, oh man, like, I found out that you could like
dodge?
Well, no. I was already... I don't even want to talk about the dodge. Cause, I mean, I do want to talk about the dodge a lot, but not right now.
Talk about it later.
But one of the thing that I discovered to like when I actually beat the fight is that you could get him to destroy the crystals that hold those dudes.
Yep.
And then, so I would just run around and have him kill all of his friends.
Of course.
And then just kill the fuck out of him. But I think that after I beat that stupid dude, I just became God at this game because like I just had to do really well to beat him with no upgrades, and so every other thing just seemed much easier in comparison.
I actually think that the Dark Souls comparison there is like spot on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because JJ like hit a wall with this game when he started playing it.
The first time it was when I quit.
Yeah,
right?
and I was doing some thinking on it, and I'm like, this game has a reputation for being really hard, and when people go into it and they hit a part that's too hard for them, they just give up because they know the game's supposed to be difficult, instead of like, you know, just trying something else,
right,
or reevaluating the situation,
or leaving.
That
was the most important thing in the case of this game that I had to recognize. It was something that I don't think ever had to do in Dark Souls naturally, but like the point that made me quit the first time was that I didn't realize that the health things respawned. So I just thought like, okay, I'm in this
I've used all of the health.
Yeah, I'm in this shitty infinite spawn room and I've got one pack. Can I make it? And the answer just kept being no so many times. And then I talked to Andy about these troubles, assuming that this is a game like that's again it's supposed to be that hard. And he's just like, leave, go upgrade your stuff, teleport back.
Yeah, I was like, go upgrade, get more health packs.
Yeah. I only got... I bought one health pack upgrade.
What?
What do you mean?
You didn't get both?
No. I didn't feel like I needed it.
Poor God, are you kidding me? I can't imagine this game
it's not even
without
that. It's
5
like,
packs.
I was thinking about like the plus, like the give and take of like spending the gear bits that I had on believe a health pack or getting awesome upgrades for the dash that I was just like, I'm never buying a health pack again when I could just continue to buy awesome dash upgrades. Because the dash in this game, and I don't know if this affects you guys as much as it does me, but the dash in this game by default does not have iframes. You just have to actually get out of the way of things, which I'm not used to doing because I've, in the past year, have spent like probably 2,000 hours playing some combination of Monster Hunter or Dark Souls, games that heavily rely on iframes.
Okay.
And so that's part of the reason that King Santa was so hard for me, is because I would dodge out of the way of his shit, but like I would do it too close to when the hitbox actually hit me, and I would just get like bonked against a wall.
Yeah, that was one of my problems with the game, I think, was that the dodge wasn't as like precise as I thought it was, or I wanted it to be. Because one of the hardest bosses for me was the Sorcerer Bird Man.
Okay.
Cuboid Bird is what I put him at second easiest.
What is a cuboid?
It's just a description. It's something that is cube-like.
Listen, it's a cop-out. It's a pixel art creature.
He makes squares on the ground.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So he would do like the snake of cubes.
Yeah.
And that was easy to dodge, but then like in his second phase, he made the
lines.
giant X
and
the giant cross. And like I'd try to dodge diagonally, and I would always go too shallow of an angle or too steep, and I would get hit anyway.
Yeah, you either go into the next line or not quite out of yours
that,
enough.
I always lost health to that, at least once. Because like it was like... Because the game wasn't as demanding about it, so I never got that good. So that one specific spot, I had to be that precise and like... could not. I was like,
There were 3 really important upgrades for me that I feel like I don't know if I would have been able to beat the last couple of bosses, or at least definitely not as easily as I did without them. And it's Reflecto Sword.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Yeah, the iframe dodge and a third thing.
Okay, first a clarification on the iframe stuff, because I'm eventually going to loop back around for my take on that too.
Oh, chain dash.
Oh, chain dash.
Yeah.
Is that, when you get that upgrade, is it literally just iframes, or does it, I was under the
it just
perspective that it
eats
only
projectiles.
Works. Yeah. You do absorb the projectiles, that's what I thought.
But that's most of the time when you need the iframes.
Right.
Because like...
You're trying to get away, so you can always leave.
Yeah, people who attack with melee range typically give you enough of a telegraph that you can just move, and you're usually alright.
But I'm definitely going to go against the room here on sort of the stance of the dash. I actually kind of love games that have dodges like this game, where you just are very fast and can move long distances that don't have iframes. This is definitely a personal thing with me, and it's all the stranger because so many of the games that I enjoy that actually have these dodges, like use iframes as that sort of crutch.
Right.
Probably the biggest offender being like the Kingdom Hearts games, where just being like a constant iframe state is just like
always
half of what
dodge
you do.
rolling.
Yeah.
I know Aqua's cartwheel in Birth by Sleep is supposedly like completely like hit proof.
Iframe sitting.
Yeah, if you keep cartwheeling, you can't get hit.
But yeah. I loved having to be this constantly aware of my positioning in a game that's designed to be like this Dark Souls-like tense.
Right.
I'm not trying to say that it was like a general principle that I'd apply to all situations, mostly just because I feel like it's a situational thing. It's contextual.
Yeah, I think that in this game, the no iframe dodge works because the game is a 2-dimensional game, and so it's really about putting yourself at like the appropriate angles and like setting up attacks.
It's way clearer to see where everything is.
Right.
Yeah.
In a 3D game, it's nice to have dodge rolls because you can get with iframes because the hitboxes are more complicated, and it's like in this game, if something hits your character model, it hits you. In Dark Souls, like if a guy swings a hammer down and you roll, you get clipped by like some errant pixel from the top, then it feels unfair because it seems like you've dodged out of the way. So the iframes work a lot better in 3D games than in 2D games.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can't... They kind of... In order to have the precision of 2D into 3D in a way that it works as natural in a 2D setting, you would have to have, like, the perfect hitbox.
Yeah.
Like a hitbox that wasn't a box and was instead just the character
Yeah,
and
just
the
the
weapons
model.
of the enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and again, this is like, I assume this is grid-based, but just like fine, like, finely tuned, I guess. I don't know. Because, like, your movement isn't completely perfect in terms of, like, how you move around. But...
What do you mean by perfect? Like 1-to-1 in terms of...
Well, like
the difference between, like, moving the analog stick in a circle and your character going in a circle, as opposed to moving the analog stick in a circle and having them go in an octagon.
Right.
Oh, I get what you mean now. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're correct at that, but it's close. I mean, it was close enough that I could do all of the chain dashing challenges in circles without messing up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, but I'm in defense of the, like, hitbox thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're probably not just a walking thing of pixels, because you aren't a walking thing of pixels to get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
You have, like, a defined area that hurts you. And so, like, having that dodge seems fine, given the, like, constraints of the type of game this is.
Yeah. God,
Yeah, I thought it worked most of the time, but there were some parts where I felt like it didn't control the way I wanted it to.
The one thing that I really wanted wasn't, like, a meter that, like, told you when you couldn't dash anymore.
They have that.
The, like, blinking thing at the top.
Yeah.
I could never, like, read that properly. Because, like, it'd blink, and it would, like, be low, and I'd be like, and I'd dash, like, to experiment, and it would be like, okay, and then other times I would hit it, but I thought it was around in the same area, and he would just be like, nope, not doing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe this is things I don't understand.
Well, it's a HUD thing, which is one of my biggest complaints with this game. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you texted me that, I had no idea what you were talking about.
Oh,
I think the HUD in this game is like a normal ass HUD in a video game.
Did you play this, like, on a computer monitor?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I don't know if it's my problem or if I am correct in this. But I think that the HUD is way, way too small, given, like, how it is laid out on the screen. And I died to the HUD way more times than I feel like I should have. Because I want to know how much health I have, because I'm managing health packs.
Yeah.
And I want to know how much health the boss has, because they have phase changes based on their health. And also they have... you just want to know how much health the goddamn boss has.
Right.
And I would have to... The bosses move so fast, and you move so fast, and your reaction time has to be so much on it, that actually looking up to see how much health that I had, and taking my eyes off the character, was too much for me to do occasionally, and I would end up getting, like, walloped because of it.
But this game, at least in the case of your personal health, has, like, tons of non-HUD based cues about how much health you have. Like, there's actually 5 progressive stages of light dimming, and that's not even counting when you start to bleed at 2 health or less.
And your little dude blinks when you need health as well.
With the health symbol.
But I mean, that's like... This comes from my my first boss experience.
Right.
First of all, the bleeding is not helpful.
Why? Why not?
In, like, a situation like that, because you're not... It takes long enough for that to show up that, like, if you need the health pack at that moment, because there's, like, you're in between a volley of attacks, noticing the blood is not going to be the thing that saves you. I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of light dimming.
Oh yeah,
I
the
never saw
screen,
this.
It's sort of like an effect similar in movies when, like, the character is semi-conscious and it's like very
blurs?
black. Yeah, it's like you have 5 distinct stages of blur going downward.
I never even noticed.
Yeah, it was the blur and the blood were the 2 things that were my constant calls for my own personal health. I almost never looked at the HUD for that reason.
Oh, I was always darting up to the HUD to make sure that I had.
That's
and
it.
also, when you've played a boss a number of times, I start to learn how much damage each move does, and so
Know when you need to.
yeah, if I'm at 2 health and I know that he's preparing an attack that only deals 1 damage if it hits me, I'm not going to heal. Which might also come from the fact that I never bought the second health upgrade. So,
Yeah.
there's that.
See, I'm the middle ground here, where I never found it an issue to be looking at the HUD.
Maybe I was just too focused on the
I
thing.
guess, yeah, I was able to just, like, look at the screen and take in all the information.
Like, in a game
at
like
once.
this, for me, I'm always so tied up in like the actual mechanics of the combat, and so like a Dark Souls style way, where you
Right.
get so zeroed in on the animations and what both characters are doing and what things are going to happen 2 seconds from now.
Right.
That I never thought to check it most of the time. I was just if some kind of other visual cue on the screen told me to, I would then try and plan for it and go for it. But otherwise, like left to my own devices, it was rarely, it felt like a cost if I didn't notice it immediately, because I'd just still be dodging and doing all the crazy normal stuff I do to try and desperately stay alive in these sorts of combat-oriented games.
I don't know. It could just be a gameplay difference, because like I never. I always have to manage like HUD elements because I play the game very like programmatically, where it's like, because like once you, I'm going to continue using the West's boss as the
Raccoon King.
the King Santa.
Yes, King Santa.
As the like example here, but it's like once you get like the patterns down, it's a matter of just like, if I got hit, like if I have this amount of time left before he does his next thing, or if he like starts charging the shot or whatever, like that is a beat. And in that beat, I could either attack or I could heal. And so it's like I can attack, I could unload a full 6 shots into him, or I could run in and slash him if I'm out of ammo, or I could heal if I'm at 2 or less health. Because once he gets into a second stage, it starts doing 3 slashes, and then you have to time your dodges with that. And it's just like, I'm never like not thinking about the amount of health that I have. And so I always need to have it there. I was not to the point where I could just manage my own health in my head. Like, doing that math on top of everything else seems impossible. But maybe I'm just too robotic. I don't know.
I kind of do that too, but more in boss battles. Like, not really as much outside of boss battles.
Outside of it, you have enough time between encounters.
Right. Yeah, if I just had a larger HUD, I feel like it would have... It didn't even need to be that much bigger. Just bring it in on the screen a little bit, and I would be fine. But it bothered me so much because I would die because I didn't know that I was within like a hit of death, or I would just be looking and miss dodge and attack.
I feel like it's relevant to the discussion also that I played this game very defensively. The further along that I went, the more upgrades that I got, the more I was like a primary gun character.
I do really like the guns in this game.
Yeah, that was actually a big thing for me. Because for whatever reason, I usually go more for melee combat in video games.
I was assuming coming into this that you like, I was going to be like, I really like the gun. You were like, I never use the gun. That just seemed like the thing you
going
were going
into
to say.
it, I kind of assumed, like, because like any kind of like the limited promotional material like kind of showcases the sword.
Right.
Yeah.
So I figured like sword good, gun for like emergencies or like specific situations.
Yeah.
So I tried to just use the sword almost exclusively and only use the gun when my back was against the wall.
Right.
So I had to like adjust my way of thinking to actually like use the gun.
Yeah, because you're incentivized to do it.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be the crazy one gun, one sword guy who just flows between both naturally as you go.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think this game did probably better than like any other game that I've played
Ever
is that I feel like this game made the use of guns feel like they could just be part of your combos. Like, when I was attacking a guy, I could use the gun completely in tandem with the sword and, like, be recharged. Like, I never felt like I never bought a gun ammo upgrade because I just, like, could always have my guns charged. And, I mean, that's helped by the fact that, like, one hit on an enemy replenishes one shot in the
I
pistol.
like the way they link them together.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you have to use the sword to recharge the gun.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I don't know if you... Because I don't know. This game has more things in it than I thought it did.
Yeah.
And
There's
guns,
a lot of secrets.
Yeah. There are guns that I did not get.
What?
Yeah, like
man,
I didn't find the rail gun, and maybe that's the only one I remember.
I finished the game with 3 guns.
I don't remember. I
definitely had at least 4.
Okay, I'm going to try and go through live
I
on
think.
cast here.
I might not remember. 'Cause it's been a
Handgun,
while.
shotgun, railgun, giant ball gun.
The one that explodes.
What?
The ball gun, the one that like you fire it and it goes like kind of slowly and then hits a thing and explodes. Like,
Oh, I
into,
didn't
like,
even realize it explodes. The reason I didn't realize it explodes, by
Because
the
you
way,
never fucking used it because it's terrible?
I used pistols. You said you liked the guns plural, and I was
Right.
curious about that because
I was
I
also
used like a ton out of the handgun. More and more as I played the game, it was just
Wait,
me.
did you not get the sniper? Like the thing with the laser sight?
No.
Oh yeah, that was my
Okay.
favorite gun.
Okay, I hated it, but that's it's to each his own with the guns in the
Yeah, like when you hit the bumper and he like aims the gun, it would have just like a laser sight that pointed, so you can tell more easily what you were hitting.
Oh.
It also does like a boatload of damage.
Yeah,
when it hits,
you
so-
only have 3 shots with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was generally kind of, despite how much I used them, I recognized that I was kind of bad at aiming them. So the reason that I crutched the handgun so much is because I felt like I was less punished for my missed shots.
True.
So
I don't know why it, like, maybe it's because when I was a child I played a ton of Robotron, but it felt so, like, the way that this game just, like, has the mechanics of a twin-stick shooter just built into the game that doesn't focus on it at all makes it, like, it just feels really natural coming from, like, that Smash TV kind of arcade experience to just be like, you point at the enemy and shoot the gun.
Yeah, I don't even have a lot of experience with twin stick shooters, and I think it feels really nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it always feels good. It's just, yeah. But yeah, the pistol was still my favorite weapon, regardless of whether or not, like, I was doing well or poorly with it against the thing. The pistol just always felt right because you could just kind of, like, pop off some shots in the middle of a thing.
yeah, it was fast, and fast is so important to the flow of this game. Even outside of boss fights,
Right.
you just always wanted to be able to react to things. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to use heavier weapons. Why would I do that?
Well, the shotgun has some incredible, like, use in combat, I found. Especially by the time I was in the last stage. I don't know what you want to call them, like the little robot guys who, like, they just, like, hover around and then they'll stop and just, like, fire out, like, a bunch of shots in a row, like 3 shots or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're, like, close up to them, they'll, like, fire the 3 shots, you reflect them all with the sword, and then put 1 shotgun into them, and they will just die.
Nice.
So it was just, like, a less than a second kill on those. And then it was really good on IG-88 and Friends.
What?
One of my other proper nouns that I invented. One of the southern bosses is a dude, like a little, like, robot guy with a tall head that would, like, who sent out a bunch of little
Oh
drones.
god, is IG-88 the name of that assassin in Star Wars?
Yes, he's the bounty hunter
God.
droid.
The boss that was like the fake out like diamond thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
the boss of
that
the
was
fake
such a
out
great
diamond.
idea.
Yes,
that
it
was really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shotgun's really good on him because, like, you can just put a spread into the cloud of things, and most of them will take damage. So it ended up, that's where I used that the most.
Yep. So that's fair. It was a cool boss. There were many cool bosses.
There were a lot of cool bosses in this game.
Yeah.
There
Cool
really
game.
weren't many bosses in the game. They were just
7?
all good.
Yeah, exactly 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have them in order of difficulty in my experience, if you would like to.
Is
I feel like
anyone's-
I'm going to completely disagree with your list based on what I already know about it.
It's possible.
Is your number 1 not Santa?
No.
Oh wow, what's your number 1?
Sterling Archer.
That's
These code names were out of control.
That is on my list, Drunk Sniper, which I
The
put
guy
at
with
third hardest.
the guy with the bow and arrow was like super hard for me.
Why is he Sterling Arch?
Because
he's an archer, right?
That's apparently like the
And he's a
like,
robot
like
as well.
fan community name for him.
That's pretty
Okay.
good. I like
Yeah.
that, actually.
He was super hard for me. Like once again, the dodging for me was like a problem there because I'd always hit the bombs.
Hit the mines. And I avoided those mines so much in my first few attempts that, like, by the time that I was like my 3rd attempt before I was like, I need to just attempt to dodge over this to see if it blows up. And of course it does. And I just got ruined. But I was like, well, at least I know now. Like,
Yep.
I can stop freaking out about it. But you can destroy them with the like pulse grenade.
Yeah, I tried that, but
It recharges like once every 30 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah, fuck God, jeez.
You can upgrade.
I
the
just
pulse
had to
grenade
get good.
To get 2 pulse grenades, but
But
it's
yeah,
like,
this was very much a get good game.
Yep.
this is that's a good description.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about how we got good after the break?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Why do we always, intro the break as if we're about to, take a bubble bath or something?
We are.
It's a very low, sensual voice. This has been, multiple casts in a row.
We shouldn't imply that we are not currently taking a bubble bath altogether.
Well, we are.
Yeah.
We should strive to be more sensual through the totality of the cast.
You guys shot down 3 Men in a Bed, so we went with 3 Men in a Bubble
Bubble
Bed
bath.
instead.
Yeah. With the 3 Men in a Bed, there wasn't enough nudity.
Or
Right.
wrinkles.
Welcome back from the break. No Clip Podcast. Hyperlight Drifter.
Did we say we were going to do a thing?
Time for. We said something stupid. I don't care.
I meant before the break, not.
Yeah, I said we were going to explain what
But you don't care anyway?
about what I said. No. not
Okay,
at all.
good.
We're now doing a
No one
clickbait
does.
top 7 hardest bosses in
In
Hyperlight Drifter. And I'm going to ask your opinion on each one as I go down the list.
Sure.
Number 7, the easiest boss in the game. We have Goth Frog, the boss of the East.
He's
Sure.
definitely the easiest.
Definitely the easiest.
Yep.
Right.
Why is he goth, though?
He's got a weird, in my interpretation of his artwork,
Yeah.
is that he had a flock of seagulls haircut that was partially dyed pink. He looked like straight 80s goth rock to me.
I just thought it was moss.
Yeah, he had moss.
Yeah,
on
he
his
had,
head.
but it looks like a flock of seagulls.
Passable. Number 6.
Number 6, Cuboid Bird, who we've previously discussed.
I barely even remember his boss fight, which makes me think it was easy.
Yeah, the boss of the North. Which direction did you go first, by the way?
I went easy frog direction.
Easy Frog.
I went north first.
Cool.
Yeah, I went
So,
counterclockwise from east.
I like that we all went to the... Well, I kept trying to go south because...
but you can't go that
Yeah, because that's the direction we went in our D&D campaign.
way. Of course.
And obviously, after we went south, we went west,
west.
so I went west first because south was blocked off. So I was sabotaged before I even began. Next up, I have Ganondorf, who is the guy who's in the room with the drop floors, and he threw energy balls at you.
I remember the drop floors, Eric, because I remember being very surprised when that happened. Was he one of the southern, triple robot extravaganza bosses?
Yeah. The triple robot extravaganza bosses.
On the same basis of the bird person, I'm going to say yes, was also easy
Yeah,
enough
he was
for me.
pretty easy.
Yeah, please tell me that you guys got the Reflecto sword before you fought that guy. Because I feel like that's the intended way of
I
fighting him.
upgraded the sword first, so all the way.
I didn't even know about the sword or the dash things until I was midway through the north because I just hadn't gone up that way. Because I had assumed that going that way was committing to that direction.
Mhm.
And so I only knew about the health and gun upgrades.
The utility of the projectile reflection of the sword was kind of mirrored with me with the absorbability of the dash upgrade.
True.
So any circumstance you think of where you just reflected projectiles back to be safe and damage, just imagine I instead intentionally set up a dash that let me go through with it so that I can
but
then shoot him with a gun.
You can... Okay, you then shoot them with a gun.
Yeah, I used it as a way to get ammo intentionally.
There's actually a boss that I'm going to ask you how you managed without the Reflecto sword in a minute.
Okay.
But I believe we've already discussed Slightly Drunk Sniper.
Yes.
It was my hardest boss of the game, for sure.
Medium difficulty for the game. One of my favorites, though. I really liked having to be very careful with how you step.
Yeah, it was a nice change because, well, I mean, the Ganondorf fight earlier, when you you were kind of locked down in the second phase when the floors dropped out because you just had a square and those islands in the corners, so it made it a lot more difficult to sort of just maneuver how you want, like you're able to with the other bosses. But the sniper does a better job of it because it places an actual danger that changes.
Yes. The more I think about it, the more I'm seeing why you called that a Ganondorf fight. Because it really is just a Ganondorf fight if you have the sword reflection.
Yeah, he I assume that's the intended thing there.
Yeah.
Is because he just has a big sword and throws energy balls. He's exactly like the Ganondorf fight. It's really weird.
Yep.
Phantom Ganon is my second hardest boss, which is the final boss of the game, whose name is apparently Judgment.
Oh, no, I thought he was second hardest, I think.
That's what I put him as.
Oh, we're that
hardest.
far up on the list already?
Yes, there aren't that many bosses in this game.
Oh, wow, it was fast.
I thought he was one of the easier bosses in the game.
This is the one that I don't know how you managed without the Reflecto Sword, because he does that like bullet hell thing where he just like sprays out bullets everywhere. Did you just like get close to him and dodge through, or
No, because I was by that point of the game so gun focused. In fact, every time he was setting up after he did his like headbutt of destruction, I would always make sure I was as far away from him as possible. So that because when you have the sphere of bullets, they get progressively more separated.
Right. You treated it like an actual bullet hell.
Yeah.
Where you just need to get in the position that you can just move around them.
And since I was farther away, it gave me more setup time to intentionally dodge through them for bullet ammo. So, my goal was generally just...
You get ammo for doing that?
Yep.
Didn't even realize that was happening.
Yep, that ended up being like the basis of the way I went through the end game.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I found his attacks to be like really telegraphed and easy to dodge.
Yeah. Cool looking, but telegraphed.
I thought he was kind of disappointing.
I thought he was my favorite boss, so... Yeah, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, the force of him was supposed to be when they were trying to up-tempo at the end of the fight. He kept doing the same things, but just either chained them more or did them faster.
Right.
Which I found fun, but it took me like the third phase when it was like max tempo for me to really enjoy the boss.
I just liked it generally. But like it's really satisfying with the Reflecto Sword to like just cleave huge sections.
Yeah, you could just stand there
and just like send bullets at him.
and you would be fine. Yeah,
it's just like really cool to just because like you see like chunks of the cloud being like removed, so the whole screen is bullets, and then just like blank spaces and him taking damage. It's actually so good.
It's actually fantastic the more that I think about it, and I wish I used the sword reflection more. Because normally in circumstances like that, where they do the sphere of death to try and accent how awesome this boss is,
right?
It's supposed to be a thing that's not very interactive to you. But the game does give you a whole lot of ways to meaningfully interact with even like the ways the bosses try and damage you. In a way that's more complex than just like a literal counter.
Yeah. The like only enemy that I feel like lacked interaction, like meaningful interaction, were the like little turret dudes who would pop up. Because you couldn't hurt them. You just had to go hit a switch or just move through them. And it's like, I don't know. They're just not, it's not really fun, and it sucks to not be able, like, it's basically just like a telegraph, like, hey, there isn't anything important in this room.
Right.
Like, just go past it. Because it's a game that I kind of enjoyed, like, searching things out. And these guys just said, fuck you, don't stay here.
They incentivized it well enough.
Yeah. And then, of course, my hardest boss was King Santa.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
The Christmas Lord.
Yeah.
Why Santa?
He's got a beard. He's white. He's old.
He does have a big white beard. I feel like he wore red. I had some reason that I could... Oh, because the area is... No, it's not. The north is
It's crystally, yeah.
It's crystally. It's like ice.
It's crystally.
I had not been to the north yet. I didn't know.
But you're correct. There is, like, green and red, which are Christmassy colors, and he's got a white beard. Also, his turret is the Hanged Man, so...
A classic Christmas. Suicide rates are higher at Christmas.
Yeah.
So they called him the Hangman.
I say, I don't think... looking at him, I don't think he looks like Santa at all.
No, the tarot card Hangman is hanging by his feet, not by their neck.
Right, yeah, but I mean, it's just a loose connection.
But that's also a Christmas tradition.
Hanging
by your
feet.
Well, of course.
So the price of Jungle Gyms skyrockets around Christmas.
The price? As it was like openly traded markets of jungle gyms?
Of course.
Like, you don't, like, I'm going to give you my jungle gym. It's nothing that happens. You sell the land. You don't sell the gym.
It's just
you
metal
construct
bars.
It once.
Yeah.
But, like, once it's there, it's done. There's not, like, an exchange of jungle gyms. There's no secondary jungle gym market.
There's a gray market for jungle gyms that you're just not aware of.
It's a rusty market.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Lord of Santa was extremely difficult, and I forget, do you actually agree with Santa's difficulty?
I thought he was hard. He wasn't the hardest in the game, I don't think.
Yours was Sniper Person?
Yeah, Sterling
Okay.
Archer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was just a whole lot of delineation points with his fight. Like, it took me a while to realize that he could kill his own people.
Yeah.
And that was extremely helpful because I no longer had to save grenades for when there were multiple people.
It was I didn't have the grenades. But yeah, those guys are ridiculous in terms of like an ad on a boss. Because it's like everyone else is like any boss that had other people were like the bird guy, right? Had like those swooping guys who take one hit and die.
But you can only hit them when they're diving.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it becomes like
He can also kill his own ads as well.
true. Yeah, but this guy was like, because they're like the samurai dudes. It's so hard to fucking kill those things.
Yeah, they can fucking, like, dodge your shit.
Yeah, it's like I can't just accidentally pick one of those guys off like
Nope.
you can with the other like ads that exist in this game.
And the sword loops are so... The timing windows of those are so intense. Like,
Yeah.
you literally just don't have room to dodge a third attack
Yeah,
in between, like, his two swings. So.
yeah, that's what it came down to for me. Like with beating that guy, I had to initiate his last phase right after he finished a sword attack in his first phase, and then I would just put 6 shots into him while he was doing the stupid gun thing.
Yeah.
And then just dasher. Just hope to not die.
Yep.
Yeah.
I completely agree with your bosses, at least within memory.
In the meantime, though,
You're sacred.
I do want to mention that like a lot of games in this vein, I find myself really like games where I'm really attracted to the combat. This game did a good job of making me actually enjoy fighting the bosses, which was nice because a lot of times it's like if I really like the combat in the game, I usually really like playing the meat of the game, and the bosses are always like kind of a letdown for me because it feels like so much of like a change in like the skills that I have or not. I can't explain it that well. It's just I'm not a big fan of like bosses most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, the bosses felt like they weren't so overbearing that it became discouraging fighting them, and they also used like different enough tactics. I feel like the aesthetic plays into it as well, because like older games had more like bosses were a much more like varied experience because of like the way that they were set up. Like things that come to mind are like Donkey Kong Country. Like you spend the whole of the game jumping and doing platforming, and then when you encounter a boss, it's always this like complete change of pace. Like jump on a cannonball and throw it at a guy. It's like it's that sort of it put me in the right mindset. So I really liked them in this game. I wasn't expecting to.
Mm. Yeah. That seems to fit within the general Chad narrative.
Yeah.
As I understand it. We spent a lot of time talking about the mechanics of things that have been going on, which is warranted because the mechanics of this are super interesting. We did mention at the beginning how sort of like free the narrative is, but I want to talk about sort of the way that it's signaled in the game. This is all sort of coming back to at the end eventually. I think this game is maybe the most like 4.5 star out of 5 star game I've ever played, if that makes sense. Like if you had to take every point on like the rating scale and assign like one representative game to each spot, I would pick Hyper Light Drifter as the 4.5 star game. But I'm worried that might be like too personal for me, because going through all of this, I really did feel like this was the video game I would make if I had any notion of the skills necessary to make games, or the time, or the funding, or anything.
Right.
But implied within that is also the idea that I really feel like this game is like so close. Like this game had the opportunity to be like my favorite game of all time by a massive margin, but was like missing a 0 at the end of the like funding numeral that they had.
Right.
Yeah. Like if this game just had enough time and enough extra manpower to just add a whole lot more polish and a whole lot more like variation, specifically in the way that the narrative is implied and presented to you, I feel like I would be like raving crazy about this game for the rest of my life. Because the actual combat structure is pretty much exactly the kind of stuff that I really like and engage in. It's Dark Souls, but really, really fast and really, really stylish.
Mm-hmm.
But let's give some practical examples here in terms of how like the narrative stuff progresses. Like after the totally awesome.
If you're gonna jump into the narrative,
Yeah.
if that is like the thing that is keeping that half star off.
Well,
largely.
Not the content of the story. It's the way that it's presented to you. Because the content of the story is pretty normal.
Right.
I just think that there were a lot of like missed opportunities and sort of like creativity and variance in the game that I thought was missing. Like,
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I do agree with that, and we'll get it. The thing that I want to respond to, though, is that you so highly like praise the things that this game does in terms of like the mechanics that we'd already been talking about.
Yep.
And I find that really, like, I am genuinely really surprised by that notion because, like, I explained this to Andy a while ago, is I feel like the game has a lot of things that I think were done perfectly and that I really enjoyed, and it had other things that I just outright hated. There was very little that was in the middle, and I came out of the game not feeling like it was like an average of the two, but that it was an experience that was defined by things that I really enjoyed and things that I really didn't enjoy. And that like really like, and things like the combat I think are really well done, but like most 3D games in the same vein that I've played, I feel like do it better. Like I enjoy playing games like Bloodborne or like Devil May Cry more for their combat that is like both ranged and melee focused and fast paced than this game.
Well, I'll get back to you on those comparisons after I play Bloodborne, which for similar reasons to this game, I've always been talking to you guys. Once I can afford a PS4 and once I play it, has a high chance of being just like the best thing I've ever touched. But I think the reason why 2D seems like, you know, like perfect game for me set up in comparison, not just to like it's a 2D game because it's an indie game, and if I made a game I could only afford to make an indie game.
Right.
Is it adds a lot of like precision in the interactions, like we were talking about before with the hitboxes and things like that.
True.
It makes it a lot easier to have like a Dark Souls style scenario where you just are certain that you lost because of something you did and that it was your fault. Like, Dark Souls had to work really, really hard on all of its animations and setup to make that sort of thing explicit to the player and keep things from feeling cheap as much as possible. Not just in encounter design, but in, like, specific fights.
Yeah, like the actual mechanical sense of being hit by a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt similarly to the way that combat works in this 2D game, because it was set up clean enough that I always felt like if I got hit by something, I could have avoided it.
Right.
You are given enough freedom of motion, and the game has enough, like, through New Game Plus, also, this is highly accented because you only have 2 health bars at that point. New Game Plus in this game is your health is the same, but your health is 2.
I now understand why the achievement for completing New Game Plus is called Masochist.
Yeah, it's like, the game...
Wait, you have, like, 2 health packs, or you have literally 2 hits?
2 hits. You have 2 pips on your health bar.
That's insane. Most attacks deal more than 2 damage.
I know, but the mechanics of this game are set up in such a way that mastery is possible to that sort of extent. And I've talked in other episodes of the cast how that's something that I really, really attach to in games.
Fair.
I like always having the ability to just completely wreck a thing. Which is also why I kind of wish that I could have looked up in like speedruns of this game. Because I can only imagine what speedruns have to look at once you have chain dashing in this game.
Yeah. The game actually does a thing. I don't know if this is off topic or not, but on that, in that sense where it's like, unless somebody like has found like some major flaw in the game that they can exploit to make this faster, the game does a thing that speedrunners really hate, which is that it absolutely requires you to get a certain number of a thing to proceed. Because like I thought that I could beat the game after defeating all of the bosses, and I had skipped, I guess, a diamond in the north and had to go back and get it.
Oh, man.
And it doesn't let you finish things like a visible, like, empty slot in the
you have
tower.
to get 4 diamonds in each sector.
Yeah, you have to get 4 diamonds and pull up the like
pillar.
hit the.
But
yeah,
if you have to be dumb as shit to miss pulling up the pillar. It's like so crit path that...
Right.
Well, I wouldn't actually say that necessarily because
actually,
like
I did that
you
with...
clearly missed a post-boss gun at some point.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of times that you could like kill a boss and just work back, or just like kill the boss, pull the
I think I missed it on my first boss, which is the one to the north.
Right.
Because the room, you have to, like, go up behind the throne.
And then go around.
Yeah, and it, to me, like, the first time there, it didn't look like I could walk that way.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like it was a wall.
Right.
So I missed it. Then I had to go back for it.
It's fair. It also answers a question that I forgot to write in my notes that I'm remembering now about the design of those like little the purpose of those crystals, because it was actually surprising to me when I found the fifth one in any area. I had no idea that you could have more than 4.
Right.
It was very confusing because after I knew that, I didn't know, like, are 4 of these crit path or is it actually variable? Because I couldn't remember from my playthrough, like, how many of them I had to go down little, like, secret avenues or things that weren't necessary in order to get them.
I think there's, like, an intended 4 that you're quote-unquote supposed to get.
Right.
But I think it would be possible to do, like, to get different ones.
Yeah, because I remember, I think it was in the West, I got, like, I think 2 out of my 4 in secret areas before I hit the boss. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that this thought really occurred to me, where it's like, are you required to find these secrets?
The West was not... It's not what I would like my, like, shining example of what this game is to me.
Yeah.
Because I remember texting Andy and I was like, yo, fuck am I supposed to be doing in this game? Because I had no idea. And, like, I actually got stuck in the West not being able to find a crystal to get for a while.
Yeah.
Sounds like
North
Dark
End
Souls.
skipped
I
it.
actually think that the West is the weak point of this game, especially if you would have gone there first. Because I think the weak points of this game are the fact that it doesn't define anything or use words or tell you anything at all,
Right.
other than the basic controls. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around what exactly you're doing at first. Before, like, you're just kind of wandering around for a while before you figure out, like, oh, I gotta get these diamond things.
Right.
So I think, yeah, there's a hurdle to jump at the beginning.
Yeah.
For sure. And also, I think as much as I like the aesthetic and the pixel art, there's some areas where, like, the way it's designed, like, you can't tell exactly, like, where you're supposed to go or if you're able to go somewhere or, like, what the clear path is.
Yeah. Thank God that in the, like, tutorial area, they make you dash up a wall, like, where they have those things. Because that places the blame squarely on me for constantly just strolling past ladders and not even noticing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but there are lots of things where the pixel art obscures paths, and they put, like, those little fucking squares to be like, there's a way to go this way.
Yeah, the secret square.
Right, but there were times when I would, like, walk toward something or whatever, and there would be what I assumed was, like, an aesthetically pleasing tree, but really when I walked past the tree I was just walking against a cliff and would just jump off like an idiot.
Yeah.
And I, like, that kind of thing kind of bugs me, and part of the reason why I prefer games that are in 3D in this style, because it's like, it's very clearly defined where things are. Not that camera problems don't exist.
Right, but you can control the camera.
Most of the time.
A camera has to be really bad on a 3D game where it would be literally impossible for you to get information about what's standing in front of your character.
Right, but in a 2D game, that's like a limitation of the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're definitely correct about the art style. The thing that I always thought about, in terms of the way it was inhibiting me, is that the game really incentivizes you to try and always, like, reach the thing off screen. Like, you go to the edges, and even if they don't have a little square, you can always, like, jump to things sometimes that are surprising that you'd be able to jump to. But I remember there were specific areas that have, like, black spires, and it's unclear whether they're, like, decorative or you can actually stand on them.
Yep. Mm-hmm. There would be, I remember several times, like, seeing, like a whatever, the currency pickups. I'm like, can I dodge to that?
Yeah,
should I try? Am I gonna die? So there were points where I'm like, the game wants me to explore, but, like, I'm not sure if I should because I don't know if I'm gonna die.
It's a big penalty for failure.
Yeah.
The game wants there to be a big penalty for failure, and I'm glad that it has one, but there's some tension there between trying to explore with your jump.
Right. So yeah, I felt like it lacked some polish there, and I felt like the biggest example of where it needed it was the West.
Yeah, basically that showcases the other big thing that I really dislike about this is just I loved combat encounters, and I wanted the game for me to just be like darting between encounters, like just going from one place to another. But the actual area traversal I found really tedious. And it was satisfying to find, like, a secret, but in terms of things like the monoliths and the keys, they don't actually provide you with a direct benefit until you've gotten a bunch of them. And if it's not your goal to do that, you're not going to find enough for them to make a difference.
Yep.
Yeah,
I found maybe like 4 keys in maybe like 1 monolith, like my first playthrough.
Yeah.
1
Yeah.
monolith? Oh man, I found a bunch of the monoliths.
I have no idea how
like
many of the monoliths I
16
found.
total?
Yeah, like it kind of baffled me when I was doing some googling, like how much secret shit there is in this game. Because
Yeah.
I mean, like I didn't go out of my way to explore a ton or anything, but like I felt like I did like the average amount of exploration that like the normal person would, and I barely found any secrets.
Did you find the way to get back to the tutorial zone?
Nope.
Oh man, this is
Do you curl up in a ball in a nest and a bird takes you there?
no.
Oh, okay.
Close though. But this is also sort of emblematic of the whole like 4.5 out of 5 star thing. There's a way up in the sort of like northern icy mountains where you can start going back down the mountains again and eventually reach like the very first like thunderstormy place. So when you scale the entirety of the mountain down, like the thunderstormy place where you begin. Yeah.
The shore.
I did that.
Not all shores are stormy.
I didn't know that. I got to a point where I was going, and I remember because I was going back for that 4th crystal, and I did that. I was just like, where do I find it? And I went up, and then I got to around there, and then I checked the map and realized that the thing was on the other side and just warped back to the... So I got really close to finding that, and then just was like, oh, fuck it.
But yeah, that's where the payoff for the monoliths
Oops.
are. You go all... You remember how when you're going through there, eventually you just like cough and go unconscious and the guy rescues you?
Yeah.
You can keep going after that point when you revisit it, and there's just like a temple like right in the next room where like the text of all the monoliths is just sort of displayed, and there's a little thing in the room which like you can has the little interaction prompt where your robot comes in but you can't do anything with it yet, and it looked like what's inside of it, which was weird at the time and I wasn't sure. I thought it was like another weapon or something. Turns out in retrospect after googling it's just like another costume.
Oh,
that you
that
can
makes
get.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, you get like an awesome black costume.
Well, that's the appropriate type of reward for that kind of like a search.
I totally disagree. If it was trying to find like the keys or something, sure, but the monoliths have narrative weight. Like that's the
Yeah, but there's no mechanical difference between them. They're just both things that are in hidden areas.
yes, there is you get like mechanical benefits for the costumes. It's not telegraphed at all, but there are mechanical differences to the costumes.
What?
Yeah, you can Google it. They're slight enough that it would be hard for you to realize them. The exception is the black one, which just gives you an extra piece of health. But a lot of the other ones, I found, other than the prescribed one that you're supposed to find, I only found one other costume because I ended up, I talked earlier about that hard spike puzzle I Googled. There's like a crazy spike puzzle past the like 8 crystal door to the west, I think it is.
Sure.
Where you have to essentially just like do the chain dash thing continuously over spikes forever, or you die. But you get to the end of that and you get like I got like a neon green one, which I was happy about that I wore forever. And then like immediately after this, because I was going counterclockwise, I got the other costume and was like, oh. But yeah, the point being is that it turns out, again, after Googling, that most of the things that we know with absolute certainty about the game, like all the proper nouns and things, come from like literal translations of those monoliths.
Okay.
They all have like sort of poetic text that people interpret one way or the other. But I had to give up for time reasons. I didn't like go exploring for everything.
Right.
But I afterwards was thinking like, oh, it'd be really awesome. I went into it assuming that I was intentionally skipping out like an alternative ending or something.
Right.
That like getting all these monoliths was going to like really explain the mystery of the game.
That's also kind of what my assumption was.
Yeah, but then it turns out you just get a costume,
Mm-hmm.
and that the only way you get is like going the impossible extra mile of literally translating the glyphs on the screen.
If you think that, when I said that I thought that was a perfectly appropriate, reward for that, my assumption was that your alternative would be like a cool new gun that did like a thing.
No.
Because I'm like adamantly against like things that are like huge mechanical differences for going like an extra mile.
I completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was the narrative change is what I was looking for.
Right, something that actually had like a significant amount of weight to it.
I agree. That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But like I feel like I'm a huge like lore junkie, as I've made clear on this cast.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel like the lack of any kind of explanations about anything made me like way less interested in it.
You're right, and I was always expecting to find the explanations.
Yeah,
like it was interesting in an artistic sense.
Because you need a thread to pull, and this game doesn't really give you one.
Yeah,
I did not require that at all.
You look at these things differently.
I played this game and had a good time fighting things in like a surrealist.
No, I mean,
like
paradise. For you to care about the lore.
Yeah,
right.
Not to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
4.5. It was great.
No, I mean, I'm saying end of the game, I didn't care about the lore or the story at all. Was just happy hitting things.
See, I felt kind of that way as well. I had like a mild curiosity about it,
right?
Where I felt like I should be really like interested in it,
right? Like the Dark Spectre. Like the Dark Spectre's appearance in like over the course of the game ended up becoming routine.
Like the final boss. Okay.
Yeah, like it's literally just telegraphed every time he appears, which is when you're trying to create like this evil spirit that is following you around constantly and can kill you at any moment, which the game seems to want to play up with all of the coughing stuff and the load time and how he just like appears in literal like one frame flashes as you're going downstairs.
I honestly did not read it that way. Like I
think it was like a constant thing coming for you.
Yeah, I thought that it was like not like necessarily like a hallucination, but like just like a recurring bit. Like you pull the thing up, releases tons of power, which like fucks with you, and then you just like pass out, and it's like a recurring nightmare.
Sure, but that's still
like I didn't feel like I was constantly in threat of being murdered, narratively speaking.
Okay, yeah, I did not feel like I was being
I felt
chased.
like I was being murdered by everything on every plane of existence at once, but it was unrelated to the narrative.
I guess you're right in that respect. Even though I would have personally preferred something more like the X monster in Metroid Fusion, which is a game probably neither of you have played.
I love Metroid Fusion.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, what I wanted was like, again,
my second favorite Metroid.
The above and beyond like surprise in the narrative. I didn't want to just keep going through collecting the crystals, and even though the encounters were fun and varied, I wanted to feel like there was something that really shook up what I was doing, made me care about something different than just like the video gamey aspects of it.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be like a scene where like, oh no, you coughed too much this time in the middle of one of these, east-west areas, and now you're just being chased by this unkillable thing for a while. It's almost like I wish that there were more prescribed narrative sections in this game. The reason I brought up Metroid Fusion was because I thought that's one of the best, clearest cuts examples of this. You remember that with
the SAX.
Yeah, the SAX is, if you haven't experienced this, Andy,
I have not.
It is literally just a thing that like kills you in one hit and is better than you in every way and faster.
Yeah, actually, the best part of it is that, especially when you get later into the game, it doesn't kill you in one hit.
Yeah.
And like you're just like flailing as it's just like coldly shooting missiles at you and just ruining your life.
Yes. Like a main mechanic of Fusion in going through it is that you had to just literally hide from this thing. Mm. And it didn't do that by trying... Well, this has been so many years that I may forget, but I don't remember it being prescribed to hide from it. I just remember me naturally having to hide from an enemy in a video game.
Yeah, you would like walk into a room and like the music cue would play and you would just be like, oh fuck, gotta get out of here. And so you just start dashing in one direction and like trying to like just find a hole to crawl into.
Yeah, and just literally just sit in your hole until it leaves.
And I did that classic... Oh man, dude, I'm not going to talk too much about Metroid.
Yeah.
Metroid as a fucking 2D, like, side-scrolly, platformy exploration type game has some of the best cinematography in games ever. And Fusion did that really well, and I think Super Metroid does that really well.
I agree.
Just... Yeah.
But the reason I bring up all these examples is it's a way that the game could have gone like above and beyond and made me care more about the antagonistic force. Like I felt like the horrible black thing, I ended up not caring much about it by the end of the game when I eventually fought and killed it because it seemed just sort of like perfunctory. Like at this point I knew every time I was going to get to one of those monoliths I was going to experience a flashback where it wrecked my shit but wasn't actually threatening to me. And then I'd eventually get to the end and beat it and win. And I just won. Like there wasn't a twist, there wasn't a surprise, or anything. It wasn't anything else. It was just the normal sort of step-by-step hero narrative. I just wasn't surprised. I wish I was surprised more by what was going on in the narrative of the game.
It almost feels like it needs another act.
Yes.
Like you do all 4 things, then something narrative happens, and then you have to do a few more things to get to the final boss.
Right.
Totally. Which is part of the reason that I said that I wish the budget had another 0. I just wanted to be more things. If you go back and watch the trailer...
The 4th part of the game, though, is so long in comparison to the other parts. Like, just because, like, each thing you find basically is a boss fight attached to it. Mm-hmm. And then... Which are all, like, new and interesting boss fights.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go through the areas and eventually get to the final boss. I remember, like, when I got to the south area, I was, like, ready for the game to be over, and, like... I was like aching for that like game complete credits roll endorphin rush, and like when I encountered the first like sub boss, which was the fake diamond guy. I remember like beating him and then getting the first crystal and then like being put back in the hub world, and was just like I was just like, all right, like settle in, we've got like a large area to go. And I remember being actually pretty pumped about it. Like I thought that the South was done well enough that I was excited like to enter each new arena, and like I liked the fact that there were a bunch of bosses and stuff.
Right. I agree that it totally works mechanically. Yeah. But like it needed another like narrative punch.
Or like even a first narrative punch.
Yeah, or curveball.
Or a curveball.
It was all just environmental storytelling that you were supposed to guess at, but nothing, like they never paid off in any way. It just kept doing the same things you expected that would happen in any sort of hero's journey.
Yeah, it does seem like a good vessel to like do something unexpected.
If a game,
but then it never does.
If a game that has like narrative beats and like twists has narrative punch to it, this game is like having a narrative slow acting poison, but like not high enough a dose, and you eventually get over it anyway.
Well, he does die at the end.
Well, that's true, but you do not die from the unexpected narrative amazing plot. I just said words in a row at the end.
You didn't die from the unexpected. I can't even say words either. The poison is taking effect.
I was wrong.
Like, a tiny example of something like this that I also, again, thought there was going to be some kind of payoff or explanation for is that one of the earliest things that was striking to me about these, like, environmental storytellings of the game was how you wake up from saves and respawns. Like, you wake up when you load a save the same way you wake up when you die. You're like, it's like you were just, like, fell unconscious, and now you're conscious again.
Were you, like, thinking it was going to pull some kind of Shadow of the Colossus stuff?
Anything. I don't know. Just, I didn't read that much into it, but I assumed there was something there. I assumed it was going to give me the thing eventually. I was going to drink the sweet nectar of narrative, and it gave me nothing.
The sweet, sweet nectar.
And it gave me nothing.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. Like, that's... The lack of narrative, like, pretty much at all, is what kept me from, like, really loving this game.
I remember at one point, in, like, a delirium of, like, constantly retrying the Western boss, at one point I actually opened the options menu, thinking genuinely, even though, like, applying any rational thought to this, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Genuinely hoping that there was going to be a setting that turned off the respawn animation. Like, I just had this weird moment where I was like, God, I hope I can just, like, skip the respawn, because, like, the 2 seconds that I was spending not fighting the boss.
Such a weird moment for Chad.
It was just...
if only I could remove this 1 second
delay. I just, like, because I thought about it immediately after opening the options menu, and I was like, what is wrong with me? But, like, I had this, like I said, it was like a delirium. I was not in the same state of mind that I normally am as a human being when I was fighting that boss.
We excuse you.
It was just so strange.
This game, I don't know what made me just think of this, but it seems like it should have, like, its own, like, comic book series, like games used to back in the day, because they had, like, a lack of narrative, so they would get, like a comic book series to kind of, like, fill in that gap for fans.
I would
Yeah.
like to see any like artist's representation of this game.
Yeah, they could keep even the sort of no talking stick going and just make it like a paneled graphic card thing. And
Yeah.
that could still work.
That would be very cool. That's our hope for the future.
Yes.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent, also compared to all this narrative stuff we've been talking about, I also feel like the music didn't have as much punch as I was hoping it was going to. Like, this might just be me not liking as much as other people the sort of like electronica stuff, or however you'd accurately describe the music in this game. I'm not
Right.
entirely sure.
That's the thing. I actually did have a thing on the music that I forgot about, so go ahead with your...
Oh, it was...
Yeah.
Because it makes sense that the like electronic music is supposed to be sort of like mellow all the time, oftentimes sort of like jarringly mellow compared to what's happening like in the Eastern Zone when there are all these bodies and shit.
Yeah.
Because other games have attempted things like that before, and Metroid Prime being what I'm thinking of right now, they always have, you can come up on implied horrible scenes, less gory than what's depicted in this game.
Right.
But things that seem like they'd be bad, but the music just seems to continue to not care about them. But the difference between this game and a Metroid Prime, or in a more extreme example to a Dark Souls, is that they never like break that mellowness with the music ever. It seemed like in the bosses things just sort of got louder, and I only ever noticed that it was getting louder because when I'd respawn I'd listen to the music fall back down again.
Right.
Like I never really appreciated the music in the same way that I'd appreciate music in a whole lot of other video games.
I actually liked the music in this game because I feel like this is the kind of soundtrack that I wish Dark Souls had. Which
That
is
makes
like,
sense.
it's ambient, it's in the background, and sometimes you even like forget that it's there.
Sure.
But I do agree, it would have been nice to have contrast between bosses.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
normal
was looking
gameplay.
for.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I liked the mellowness in the context of just overworld exploration. I just wish that there was like a crazy up-tempo thing in the same way that Dark Souls had like its crazy Latin madness whenever you would go into like a boss area. Because this is obviously that's the highest contrast that could ever exist in any video game was Dark Souls' case.
Yeah,
But,
it's like literally 0 to
A
a
billion,
chorus.
yeah. but Metroid Prime still had like I remember songs from bosses in Metroid Prime, and the only thing I really remember about the music in Hyper Light Drifter,
The menu.
the
Or
menu,
the
sure.
opening, like the...
I mean,
Okay,
like
yeah.
in the game, I remember the chime that generally signals judgment.
Right.
That's about
Right.
it. I remember that chime noise.
Speaking of judgment, did you guys ever try to kill the crows, like after you woke up?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, every single time
yeah.
I tried to hit the crow.
I assumed they were in some way evil. And
Right,
I
of
attempted
course.
to
Yeah,
shoot
they
them.
show up in that time. The thing that I wanted to say about the music is that, like, because in a game like this, you almost expect it to have, like, sort of like an 80s synth soundtrack where it's, like, faster paced and something like Hotline Miami had.
Sure.
Like, just given that visual. And the fact that they went with sort of, like, a droning... That's really just the best word I could use to describe
Yeah.
it, is that it is droning.
See, I think it fits the game really well.
It fits the tone really well. The issue that I have, and I mean, the music was written by an artist called Disasterpiece, and I believe that they produce music, generally speaking, just as a musician would. Like, they don't score things.
Okay.
And I think that is what kind of hurts it, is because when you're scoring for a game, you have to, like, anticipate the fact that the people who are listening to it are going to be listening to it for a while. And I found a lot of times this game's music would start out, I would be totally cool with it or not notice it at all being, good or bad in some way. And then after, like, prolonged exposure to it, suddenly being like, I really wish they would have used, like, something a little bit more melodic or just not
Catchy.
as, like a ringing in your ears.
Mhm.
There are times when the music just got to, like, an almost trance-like point, and it didn't sit well.
I'm okay with things being trance-like in the sort of enjoyable monotony of overworld travel, but I want to exit that sort of trance when something surprising happens. But the game tended to not accent those things.
I
or not do
think what they
surprises.
were going for in that situation is that you would approach these moments and it's not different because in real life the world wouldn't change around you to react to the fact like you stumbled across a dead body.
Yeah.
Part of the thing that's like so shocking about seeing something like terrifying is the fact that it doesn't change what's around you. It's just like suddenly
mind, yeah.
something bad is in front of me and I have to deal with it because I'm the only person who's like aware of it.
Yeah.
The like mystical composer AI is not suddenly like
Sure. But you've got to admit that that's not like... You can't apply that argument equally to all uses of music to accent things anywhere.
Oh no, I agree with you completely. I was just
Yeah.
arguing what I think they may have been going for.
Which is why I think it's cool in overworld situations
Right.
where you're trying to represent the environment that you're in more than the like set piece in each individual room.
Right. Yeah, like I'm glad that when you approach like one of the giants that's like hanging onto a thing, that like there wasn't a scene where the camera zoomed over to it.
Sure.
It just
Right.
was there.
Yeah.
No Fallen Titan theme song or anything.
Right.
Good environmental storytelling, but
Yeah.
not much.
Yeah, huge props to the environment, like design, and the artists and everybody who worked on like the game, that part of the game.
Do you think they made the map intentionally horrible?
Oh, we didn't talk about the map.
We always like that's how we always begin map-based segments. We were like, oh right, the map.
I also thought the map was horrible.
Yeah.
Is it intentionally horrible though?
Why would they do that?
So to make the world seem confusing and alien to you and make you realize that you just had to go through it anyway.
I want to know why you think the map was horrible because I have only one complaint with the map, but I do think it ruined it.
Did you ever once use it like a map? Did you ever like, I need to know how to get from A to B, let's open this and figure out how to do that?
Yes.
When?
Like, after you find where all of the diamonds are,
Yeah.
it, like, puts out generally where they are on the map. So I was able to say, like, if I warp to here, and I need to get to that one, generally speaking, I need to move in that direction. And actually, the terrain is marked on the map. So if there's a staircase, the staircase is represented on the map, which is useful, but the one thing that killed it for me is that it doesn't show your player moving
Yep.
when you're
Right.
in an area.
Yeah.
Like,
See,
that bugs me.
I tried to use it like a map. I think I was in the eastern area, and the diamonds were up on the thing, and I was like trying to find the specific one and could not get to it based on like where it looked like it was on the map, and like it was just like infuriating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
the
map's-
East was by far the worst in terms of, like, actually being able to find
I ended
my way
up just
around.
using it like a checklist. I'm like, there's this many diamonds left. That's the only thing I used the
Yeah.
map for.
I think it was intentional, but I just could not find my way back to places in this game.
I guess
I never needed to, luckily.
that
Right.
theory makes some kind of sense, because I also think that's why there's no dialogue in the game. I think they're trying to put you in the shoes of the drifter who would be like foreign to this place and wouldn't understand their language.
Which, on that note, I love that when you talk to people, you just hear like a grunt, and it like will occasionally display like an illustration.
Yep.
It's
And it's
real
your
good.
robot that's doing the talking.
Right.
You know, it's the little translator creature.
One of those images, I feel like I pulled kind of an Andy on this. You talk to somebody who looks like you, who's like leaning against a building,
Oh,
Yeah.
like
and
that.
his image is like a bunch of animals, like the humanoid animal people,
Yeah.
in a dark alley, and him like laying on the ground in a pool of blood,
Mhm.
and I was just like, animal people. I turned around and I was like, they're everywhere. Like, I was just suspicious of all of the people in the hub world, that they were gonna like turn on me at any moment.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was going to be the climax.
But like, that never went anywhere, also.
No, yeah.
Like-
I think
like,
they
why is
just
that-
beat
I was
that guy
actually
up.
that's something that I was curious about, as to if he had like a story thread that went anywhere.
Not that I know of.
One
Like
of the
it-
tablets is like, oh, and also that animal group.
My
beat up
my
a dude.
guess was that like you would do something or bring him something, and then he would like give you his costume or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a thing that no one has found yet.
It's
like
possible.
a super secret.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the kind of game that would never have that.
Yeah.
There is no super hidden narrative thing in this game. There are hidden, like little currency balls, and there's
Right.
lots of them, and they might be super hard to find. But I'm pretty sure everyone's found all the currency balls by now.
Right, because presumably after you collect all the currency balls,
You get an
just
achievement.
have everything.
Yeah.
Oh, and you do get an achievement for it.
There you
So
go.
you
yes.
know if you found
It has
them.
been confirmed. It basically this game has a lot of hidden checklist items.
Yep.
That's about all.
Yeah. It, in a similar vein to describing the animal people, anything that wasn't your mechanical interaction with the game felt very static. Like, nothing outside of you did much of anything.
Yeah, everything was just sort of a picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's kind of excusable for a game of this scale.
I agree, which is why I wish it was a higher scale of a game.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody was static, but it was a really well composed static image of a town.
Beautiful. It was a
Yeah.
painting.
Yes.
I went to a film and I saw a gorgeous, gorgeous painting.
You went to a film and
Yeah,
saw.
that's
a
the-
gorgeous-
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's my
just-
point, is that I went to a film expecting there to
Okay.
be moving images, and instead I saw a fucking gorgeous painting.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a very good analogy. But whatever.
Well, fine. You guys can spit on my
It's more
analogies.
like you went to see a film and someone presented you with a flip book of a ball bouncing.
That sort of implies that this game is just like an unequivocal failure.
That's why.
They gotta
Or
say-
it also implies that films aren't anything more than a series of static images.
Well, no, they have sound.
So does flip books.
Checkmate.
They have the sound of the flips, and then you can make the noise.
Yeah,
with your
like
face.
mouth sounds.
Yeah.
I mean, what are movies other than flip books and mouth sounds?
Man, why, as a kid, have I never experienced someone attempt to narrate what's going on in a flip book?
I feel like I've seen that in a cartoon,
It's
which is
definitely been in a cartoon.
weirdly there's a weird parallel there.
Yeah, it was like there's a character that's doing a flip book and he's narrating it.
Was it Bugs Bunny?
No,
No.
it's like a more modern cartoon.
Yeah,
Was
it's
it
it's a flip book of another character that he's showing it to,
Yeah.
walking, and then something terrible happens to them. I remember this specifically being a thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to think of it.
Was it like the reboot of Looney Tunes?
No, it's not Looney Tunes.
Why
would it be
flip
Looney
books with Looney Tunes?
Because it seems like a thing Bugs Bunny would do. It was
It
like
does
one of
kind of
his
seem like a thing that Bugs
antic
Bunny would do.
pranks. He always had lots of accessories in his
True.
antics. Lots of other shit involved in Looney Tunes
That he would
cartoons.
just pull out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, that's why they had to establish a whole separate corporation to provide all of the shit.
Well, that's more Wile E. Coyote did the stuff with Acme Corporation.
Wasn't
Yeah.
Acme in all of them?
I mean, it was like a through line.
But
Well,
it was mostly just Wile E.
Wile E.
that
Coyote
did
was
that
their
stuff.
primary buyer.
Oh, he's definitely the progenitor, and definitely their primary buyer.
I don't
but I
know-
sort of always thought Acme was a shadow corporation in the background of the Looney Tunes cartoons.
I think
Not
that
shadow and evil, shadow and secret.
I think that it is, but I don't know if any of the other characters ever bought stuff from it, except for Wile E. Coyote.
Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be joined by our friend Faun, and we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 2 platformer classic Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. If you want to get a hold of us, you can. Here's how.
We promise it's possible.
It is
Can you find out?
Yeah, through means such as noclippodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @noclippodcast, on YouTube, noclip. And I feel like I'm forgetting one.
I don't know.
I don't know.
They'll have links to the rest.
That's
Just follow the web.
It's
okay?
it's a cyclic kind of
It's
thing.
all connected.
And if at all possible, please leave a review, rate on iTunes. Tell a buddy about us.
And send us questions and things. We like those.
Yeah.
Yep.
We should quit the podcast and figure out
Oh, yeah.
how...
Let's quit.
We're going to be on strike, Chad.
Fuck.
We demand a raise.
Thank you for listening to the podcast this week. What are we playing next time, Chad? Next time, jeez.